Hi there, my name's Wendy Smith and I'm an NLP practitioner who works with helping people to overcome past traumas, dealing with PTSD, CPTSD, overcoming the conditioning and the trauma and triggers of child abuse and relationship abuse, but also helping people with, come to me with things like anxiety, depression, even addictions such as alcohol, drugs, overeating. They come, and often we discover that there's been something going on with a past trauma that has led to these addictions as a form of avoiding the traumatic memories that have been experienced. Now, I have personal experience, as you know, and I ended up with severe changes in cervical cells due to long-term trauma that I'd been living in leading up to that diagnosis. Unfortunately, I was no longer in those situations, so therefore, when the operation occurred to have those cells taken away, that stress was then resolved until the next time, and it then reappeared after that period of sustained stress yet again. And I made the connection and had a word with people at the NHS, and they've confirmed that trauma can do that. So I started to look into it a lot more deeply, and I ended up, as I say, healing myself and then doing these qualifications so that I can be a practitioner to help other people because of the health benefits of resolving those issues. So today I want to really look at the fact that chronic health problems come from the chronic inflammation as a result of past trauma that's unhealed, and the impact on that. And you don't always show up as having impact or effects from trauma. Delayed onset PTSD, you can be coping with a situation that's extremely stressful, frightening, any of these things, worrying, unhealthy, fearful, even stress at work. You can be dealing with that for such a long time, and then all of a sudden, further down the line, you start to show up with symptoms of flashbacks, anxiety, can be depression, and then that can lead people to taking on these avoidance behaviours to in the hope of not having to look at those traumatic memories or traumatic situations and sort of almost brush them under the carpet by choosing to try to comfort ourselves, or in an attempt to maybe make things better, self-medicating in that way, deciding that, hey, yeah, I feel better if I do this. Then ultimately we know that these things will also have a long-term impact on our health. So sometimes our coping strategies are also a large part of the it's a secondary, but it's also having an impact on our health long term and leading to some of the diseases that actually also come from the health effects of trauma, whether it's a singular event or whether it's a sustained event. But it leads to inflammation, and that causes those diseases. But some of the things that do show up as a result of trauma and the effects of trauma are things like hypertension, musculoskeletal pains, obesity, heart disease, pancreas and liver diseases, even cancer, and a lowered immune system, one that is sort of, you end up with lots of colds, flus, and things like that going on, and autoimmune disorders, can be as a result of past trauma as well. So as I say, I help my clients to resolve these traumas, and in the long run, this will help their overall health. And sometimes to cope with these things, we're also choosing very unhealthy habits that are actually harmful to our body as well. Not just the alcohol, drugs, tobacco, but it's a coping strategy that could also be very unhelpful in the long term. But it's actually helped us over the years to cope or get round having to feel uncomfortable, or any of the things that come from that past traumatic event that's still there, sitting there, playing out. So avoidance can occur in any way, shape or form. And it's best to actually go back, look at the event, and release all those feelings that are around it that we're trying to mask by, as I say, the alcohol, the drugs, or the coping strategy that in itself is also creating massive damage or potential massive damage to our body and the organs and the functioning of our body. So it doesn't just affect our mind and our emotions, it can also have that long-term effect on our health in whichever way that can show up. So when I work with my clients, we go back in, we resolve the original event, which then leads to them being able to take healthier patterns of behaviour that will no longer cause any damage to them. And that in itself is really good news, because they start to lead their life in a more normal way, one that supports them completely. So they're emotionally healthy, they're mentally healthy, and they're also then doing the things that keep them physically healthy and support all the systems of their body. So it's very exciting when that happens, of course. But ultimately, if you notice that any of these health conditions, or you suspect that maybe past trauma could be behind that, by all means speak to your GP. Maybe think about counselling or therapy for that. There's also people that do hypnotherapy, people like myself that use NLP, but there's also lots of other modalities that will help you to deal with past trauma and help you to release it in a way that's safe and healthy and helpful, and get you past that and back to physical health as far as possible, and have that better impact on your long-term health rather than the potential damage that we've outlined there. So yeah, definitely think about what have you got going on here. Think to yourself, well, has there been something? Could there be even? Is it worth you looking at? And then maybe seek help for that, and give yourself the best opportunity for being as healthy as possible for the long term, for the rest of your life. So thank you ever so much for showing up today. I'm really delighted to have the opportunity to speak to you. And if you do need to get into touch, then check out my page. I'm sure you'll have the details. If you're finding this on YouTube, then I'll pop the details below. If you're finding this via the amazing Crystal House Retreat and Strathbetter 2020, then I'm sure you can be put in touch with me if you'd like to speak to me yourself. And if not, as I say, there's plenty of other practitioners that can help you to explore that possibility and look in that direction and see whether that is something that could make a huge difference for you. But it's working for a lot of people. So have a great day. Thank you ever so much. And thank you for your time. Okay, bye bye now. Bye bye.